Hello, Kayla. I'm so excited that you are here on an episode of our Patient Files. How are you today?
I'm so good. I'm so happy to be here.
I know I'm excited to have you. And the day before Thanksgiving too. Are you doing anything
Yes.
special today for Thanksgiving?
Not today. I have to finish my work day, unfortunately, but tomorrow we're doing a little Friendsgiving with some friends in town, so it'll be nice.
Yay. Oh my gosh, fun. So yes, we will start off with introduce yourself, like who you are, like what do you do for work, just some basics, and then also just go ahead and jump in a little bit on like your health journey and what that, because you hit quite a bit of things from hormones to like weight. So I think this will be a really good, like comprehensive episode. So yeah, and I'll interject my questions as you go.
Sounds good. Well, like you said, Lahana, my name is Kayla. Um, I am a wife and mother of two. I have an 8-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son. We live in Texas and we are originally from Wisconsin. We've been in Texas for about 5 years. I work for a health insurance company and I am the director of quality for our implementation projects. So I sit at a desk
Nice.
a lot.
Nice. So, I think I knew that and then forgot. So, do you feel like you see firsthand some of the downfalls of insurance, or no, you're not really in that space?
No, I definitely do.
Yeah.
So
What do you?
we work primarily with like the Medicaid population. So it's a little
Mm,
less about um, root cause medicine and it's a lot
yes.
more like social determinants of health and like making sure people have food and clothing and housing and things like that. So
Yes.
it's kind of like that first line of defense. So we see, you know, we see a lot both ways. So we
Yeah.
see our members who um, they may have like vitamin deficiencies and things like that, but if they can't feed their kids or they can't take care
Oh,
of their diabetes because they can't feed their kids, like we got to help them with those kinds of things first.
that's so tough. That's so tough. I know it feels almost. I've definitely had that thought in my head of like, not yet. I guess guilt, but I can't feel guilty because so many things are out of my control. But the healthcare that is accessible to people who have dispensable income towards it and then people who can't. So that's why it's been on my heart after my doctorate and maybe after a couple years, because I just need to like relax. Is my goal is to have a nonprofit side of things to be able to like try to find or provide people who truly cannot afford it, can't afford supplements, can't afford labs, can't afford the whole shebang, but try to create a nonprofit for that, because I wish I could get it to people, um, you know, that really struggle with affording it. So I'm thankful for what you
Yes.
do then, because I mean it's needed and it's helpful. So with your health, like I said, it's kind of a little bit of everything. So where, I guess, like give us a history, like where did it
Yeah.
start?
So I started noticing some weird symptoms about 10 years ago, probably. Um, I was living in Wisconsin in an apartment, and every so often, my whole body would just break out in hives. Like,
I
not my whole
remember you
body,
telling me that.
my whole torso, like my chest, my stomach, my back, my hips, like, and it was like I like multiple times a week, and we just never, ever, ever could figure out why. Like, we did all the stuff they say to do, like for eczema and things, like your
Yeah.
laundry detergent and your soaps and your shampoos, and we went as far as like getting our carpets cleaned and our furniture
Mm.
cleaned. Um, and it didn't go away. And that went on for, oh gosh, I don't know, months for sure, probably close to a year. And then suddenly that kind of stopped. So I was like, okay, I don't really know what we did different, but I haven't gotten hives in a while. Um, but yeah, so that kind of went away. And then fast forward a couple years, I started getting like inflammation and really bad pain in my joints, like my knees and elbows. Um, and like my
I think
fingers would swell up.
yeah, and I think I remember you saying like, wasn't there like one time like you couldn't even like get up? I think you were sitting down. Maybe it was,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
don't
there's
remember.
multiple
Yeah, and
times.
you
Or
were
if I
like,
was like,
I was so
yep,
so in pain.
Yeah, like on the ground, I needed help to get up off the ground sometimes.
Gosh.
Standing up from the toilet, like I couldn't even hardly stand up from the toilet without like assisting myself. Um, so in at that point, it was like, okay, do we need to do something about this? Like, I'm in my late 20s. This is not normal.
Feels like a
Um,
90.
yes, exactly. And so I went to, I think I first started with a rheumatologist. Um, and well, actually, first one time my hands got so swollen that I had to go, I went to urgent care and I did blood
Wow.
work, and my inflammatory markers were so high. They were like, you need to, here's your referral, go see a rheumatologist. So that's what brought me to the rheumatologist first. So
Wow.
they ran all the panels that they needed to run, and everything kind of came back inconclusive. So in order to get like a lupus diagnosis, you have to have 7 of the 9 criteria or whatever those numbers are. And I had like 5, maybe. Um, Tested negative for rheumatoid arthritis and negative for Sjogren's and, all of the other autoimmune diseases that are out there. So it was really like, you are just inflamed. You have high inflammatory markers, and
Why?
yeah, exactly, exactly. So I was like, okay, but like, what am I supposed to do about it? So they wanted me to take hydroxychloroquine,
Mm,
and I said no to that because I was like, I mean, I want to know why I'm inflamed like this. I don't just want to like get on a medicine to take care of it. Of course, I want to feel better, but I don't like,
yeah.
there's got to be a reason why I'm in my late 20s and I can't get up off the toilet. Like, this isn't normal. Um, and so that actually was in Wisconsin. And then we moved to Texas, and I started seeing a new rheumatologist, and went through the whole health history, all of that with them. And it was the same thing. So, same blood
Oh,
work, same results, same, you're inflamed, you have high markers for inflammation, and they wanted to put me on medication. And I was like, no. And then they were like, well, let's test your thyroid for antibodies, because all this time, the only labs that I ever got done for my thyroid was my TSH, and it was always
mm,
in the normal category. So they tested me for the thyroid antibodies, and they were high. I think they're supposed to be like less than 9. And mine have always been, every time since then, in the 100s. So they were like, oh, you have Hashimoto's. You need to go see an endocrinologist. And I was like, oh my goodness, all this time I'm going to go see this endocrinologist and everything's going to be
yeah.
great. And so I see this endocrinologist, they do the thyroid panels. Yes, I have Hashimoto's. And they're like, here is Synthroid. We're going to put you on Synthroid. This is going to fix you. You're going to be good to go. And I was like, thrilled, obviously. And so I start taking Synthroid. Do I feel better? Yes, I feel better, but my joint pain doesn't go away. Nothing happens with
Yeah.
that. Um, I did have a little more energy at that time. My brain fog was a little less, but it didn't
Nice.
do anything at all with my joint pain.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I
right. I
gave
mean, there's
that,
an
yeah,
autoimmune component to it, right? So like you're
yep,
just constantly being inflamed and you're getting your body's attacking like healthy tissue. And I think sometimes we have this like idea of like with Hashimoto's, it's like, okay, my body's attacking thyroid, but like, of course that can like leak into other places too. Like if your environment and your body allowed this to happen, then obviously it can allow things to happen in other areas. So I sometimes hate when they like separate it. And I think that like is a little, they discredit it a little bit because they separate it. Um because same with like the lupus diagnosis. It's just like you have 5 out of like the 9, but like what if you had 6 out of the 9 and you're supposed to have 7? Like so that automatically says like you don't have lupus. I don't know. I think getting a diagnosis is really helpful so you know like what to help and what to encourage. But sometimes I'm like that just doesn't make sense.
yeah. And if you don't have any of the answers, then you're just like, oh, sorry,
Yeah, like
can't
you're
do
just
anything for you.
inflamed.
Here's some meds. Yeah, which was a really, really hard part. Um, and even, throughout all that, I was having like some anxiety issues with it. even some depression because I was like, this is just not okay. Like, I'm so young. I should not be having these, like, be in this much pain all the time and have to deal with this and, do my due diligence by going to these providers and nothing come of it.
Yeah.
So that was hard. And that's when I saw someone else that had seen you on Instagram, and I was like, I need to reach out to Lahana. And I
Yes.
did, and I did. Best decision of my life
Oh,
because you have changed my life, and you and Claire and working with y'all has been life changing.
oh, good. I'm so glad. And I know your weight. It's always been a journey. It's always been like a roller coaster for you, right?
Oh,
Like
my
it was
whole
like up and
life.
down, up and down. So that was like
Hmm.
nothing new. Even when you were a kid, right? Like
Oh
even
yeah.
before
Oh,
high school.
my whole
Yeah.
life, up and down. I was like bigger as a kid, and like I saw some of the effects of that with like kids teasing and things like that. So I think, from the time I was a child, it was kind of like a thing for me, if you will, like throughout
Yeah.
even as a teenager into my 20s, my weight like fluctuated a ton.
And diet, how did your diet look like growing up? Like dieting or what did it look like? Were you like standard American? I think feel like we all were because we grew up just in that like time where in the 80s and 90s it was just like processed food was I think coming before that, but like was huge. Parents didn't have to like cook as much. We got like our kid cuisine.
Oh
I
yeah,
remember
for
those.
sure.
So like
Yeah,
I feel
as a
like
kid.
yes, I feel like our generation just grew up with it in the thick of it when we were so young. And honestly, like that's all I remember. Like I remember little Debbie cakes even when I was like in kindergarten. So I know
Oh
I was
yeah.
probably eating it before then.
Yeah. And my parents were very blue collar, and I was what you would call a latchkey kid. I came home after school and they were still working, and I was home by myself until they, got home at 5:30, and then they made us all dinner, and it was, a quick dinner, whatever they could throw in the oven that was processed food. And,
Yeah.
we never went without food or anything like that, but, it wasn't the greatest, but they did the
Yeah.
best they could.
Yeah, for sure. I know. I think there was so much excitement in like making now our parents' lives got easier because they didn't have to
Hmm.
do this like full course like meal. There was like frozen meals that they could easily just heat up and go. So I think there was a lot of excitement and probably not a ton of like really deep thinking of the nutrition side of things. I think everyone was just excited for like fast food to like feed families easier and maybe cheaper and whatever. And then,
Yep.
obviously now we're seeing the repercussions, but in the moment they were like, yes, my life got easier. And what about like also growing up? Did you have just, I don't know, that dieting mentality of like calories and just
Oh yeah.
yo-yoing?
Oh yeah. Um, High school, college, all of that. It was like you're either on a diet or you're not on a diet. So you're either having a slim fast for lunch or you're having pizza for lunch. You know what I mean? Like
I
that
totally
was
forgot
just
about Slim
the
Fast.
way it
Yes.
was. Yes. Even as like a high school kid, which is so crazy.
Crazy. It's crazy. But again, we grew up in that generation where
Hmm.
all those diets were very influential on our parents. And so a lot of us picked it up
Hmm.
without even seeing that. And that was also the skinny, like time of like era where like you had to be stick thin. That was models, that was everyone that was like shown to us through entertainment. So
Yep.
I feel like that definitely messed us up a little bit.
Hmm. For sure.
um Okay, and then let's see. And I know your degree was also like in healthier stuff, like exercise and
Yep.
nutrition.
Yep. I had
Okay,
my major was exercise science, and I had a nutrition minor. Um,
nice.
my whole life, I actually wanted to be a nurse. Like since I was in elementary school, anytime someone said, "What are
Oh,
you going to be when you grow up?" My answer was always a nurse, OB nurse at that. Um, and then when I was in high school, late high school, my dad got pretty sick and he needed to have open heart surgery. And like kind of it was like a pivotal moment for me. And after that, when I was like a freshman in college, um, I changed my major and I was like, I don't want to be on the nursing side of things where I am fixing people who are already sick or helping people who are sick. I want to be on the other end of it and, work with people and help them like have healthy habits so that they can live the lives that they want to live. So it was at that point where I switched my major and I went into exercise science and
Nice.
nutrition.
Nice. Yeah, I so relate to that too. I felt the same way. I think you probably um learned that sooner than I did, but I totally remember that I was in pre-med and I just remember like the how you're trained to think, which provides me a little empathy, for conventional. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's like how they're trained and they only know what they know. So you can't like
Mm-hmm.
fault them for that. It's definitely the system, the education, that's just how you're taught. But I felt the same way. I'm like, this is it. Like, this is healthcare. Like, okay, this is like a sick person, and here's a pill for it. Like, that's it. Like, there's no one's talking about like the stress or the environment, and even I didn't even know the depths of it. Like, I was just thinking, like, well, I feel like food's a big place, right? Like, because I mean, obviously, I was thinking conventional, but they're like, oh, you have heart issues, like do this and this with your diet. So obviously I'm like, diet has to impact. And then I like really fell into it and I was like, oh yeah, I love this. And then obviously once you're down that rabbit hole, then you start seeing like all these other things of like how environment and exercise and sleep and
Yeah.
stress. And I was like, whoa, like I feel like this is healthcare. Like you have to be looking at that. That's healthcare.
And now,
Um,
even when they talk about food in healthcare, it's not about nutritious food that you should be eating. It's about the number of calories that you're eating and making
yes,
sure that you're not eating too much and low carb, low fat diets. And
yes,
it's like, okay,
yes.
to take that
And
with a grain of salt.
yeah, and I don't know if you remember, but like that's still pretty much taught in like schools, like to this day.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so I even when I hire dietitians, I have to like kind of probe to see if they've kind of done their own research and like have gotten out of that because that is still what is taught, which is very unfortunate. And so yeah, I have to like probe on the boss level of like, but do they believe that? Or have they like, is there more to it than that?
Yep.
And so you were a candidate for our gut protocol just because I think a combination of things, obviously with Hashimoto's, that almost always is like gut health 100% because there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
immune triggers in the gut. And I know that like bloating was kind of there and constipation was also kind of there.
Yep.
How was your experience? Because not every patient goes through this protocol, but it's definitely one of our more intensive. But I remember because I was talking to Claire and you responded so well, especially in like the first couple of weeks, like the like no bloating and no headaches and even joint pain was starting to improve. But like how was it on like your end? Like did you feel it was really hard? Do you feel like it was
Well,
not bad?
I mean, I would say if you're ready to like truly make the change and like your mindset is this is going to change my life and I've done everything that I can up until this point. Um it wasn't that bad. Like
Nice.
I started in July and I remember looking at like the week 1 foods that I could eat and I spent a Sunday preparing, by soups and all of that for the upcoming week. Um, and for once, having to just focus on what I was eating and not the amounts that I was eating or, the macros within all of my meals. Um, that was that was a refreshing piece. And I just started right away on Monday and I ate the food that I prepared. And did I get sick of it after a while? Yes, I did. But I really felt different and felt better almost right away, like
Yeah.
within that
Yeah.
first week.
So would you say, because I always say this, and I feel like other people have, but do you feel like even through the hard parts, but seeing such an improvement quicker, did that motivate you to like just keep going and say,
A
screw, I'm
hundred
tired
percent.
of food? Okay. That's what
A
I
hundred
thought.
percent.
Yeah, because I feel like people are like, oh man, like I'm gonna be sick of that food, or oh, it's like too like simple. Like I like more flavorful, like really like rich meals or whatnot. And I'm always like, I don't know though. I feel like when people start feeling better, they're like, hell yes, like I have been wanting to feel this good for so long. I will do what
Mm-hmm.
it takes. And then looking back, you're like, oh, that's actually not that long of a time that it's only like a couple of weeks. I feel like that are the most intensive parts, but I always feel like that is needed. But needed for people to know that sometimes the motivation lies just like from feeling better.
Yeah, for sure.
Going back to what you said about beliefs, I really want to ask and dig more on that, because I am a firm believer that if you go into this, it's okay to have some just being skeptical and nervous and unsure. But I do think that like if you're like, this isn't going to work, but I've tried everything, I just don't think it's going to work, because I do believe that the belief is there. You need to know that your body can heal and that food can heal and all these things can help you
Mm-hmm.
heal. How was your mindset like going into it? Were you just like all the faith of like, this is going to work or whatever? Or like, how was it? Because I just believe when you're like, I doubt this is going to work, I just don't think it's going to work for people. Belief is huge.
Yeah. I think for me personally, like I said, I was kind of at rock bottom. So I was like, even if I didn't believe, I had to try it and move
Yeah.
forward and, see if it worked. But I don't think that people can refute what using food as medicine can do to your body. Um, if you go through the gut protocol, I don't know how it would be possible for you to not feel better, because you're just feeding your body these nutrients and these things that it may have been missing for so long, or not having the sugar and the added sugar, and letting your body kind of heal from that and heal from those cravings. um, it may not fix every problem that they're coming to you for, but you're gonna feel different in other ways that you didn't know you could even feel different.
Yeah.
So even
100%.
even if you don't believe that it's going to get rid of your joint pain or get rid of your headaches or your bloating or fix your constipation issues, um, it will change you from the inside out.
Yeah.
Like I said, just with things that you didn't even know needed to be changed or could be
Yeah.
healed.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that. Cause I feel like, I feel that you are at a level when you come into this and you only know what you know. And we've had people that are like, I just want to like tweak things and just feel better. But honestly, I feel pretty good. And then obviously we have people who are like very, very ill, but they only know what they know. And I love the people that actually are like, I feel pretty good. I just want to tweak things and really like make sure that I'm
Mm-hmm.
healthy. And then they're like, oh my God, like I feel so much better, but I didn't even think I felt bad before. Because it's so true. You kind of reach like a new level and you're like, whoa, like
Yeah.
this is crazy. So how were you eating before? Because I think some people have hesitation with this isn't going to work, because we get a lot of patients who are actually already eating kind of good. Like they're
Mm-hmm.
eating vegetables and proteins and stuff like that. So how were you eating before? Were
The
you pretty
same.
healthy? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we definitely, my husband and I both work full time, and we have active kids, and our jobs are pretty, like we got to pretty on all the time for our job. So we were probably eating more like restaurant type foods than we
Okay.
normally would, but it wouldn't be like just junk all the time. We would
Okay.
be ordering way too expensive salads from places, or we would get like Mediterranean food and things like that. But they also probably use the cheapest oils when they do their
Yeah.
cooking and all that kind of stuff. So for the most part, it was decent food. Like we were eating protein and vegetables and fruits and things like that. But um, we also love our treats. So we were having
Yeah.
treats far more often than we probably needed to. Um, and there are ways that you can still do that as well. So it's not like you
Yeah.
have to like give those things up forever or anything like that.
Yes. Yes. So but you weren't eating like standard American, like you were eating pretty like decent.
Yeah.
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 I love people to hear that, because again, I feel like we only know what we know. And that's why it's helpful to like seek out help
Mm-hmm.
for that reason of like, what am I not doing? Or maybe this is healthy, but I just, got done reading a lab for a patient like a couple hours ago, and sweet potatoes definitely inflamed him. And so those are like little tiny things that while they are good, like in a broad aspect, but for that
Mhm.
individual, it may not be. What test was your favorite that you've done? Because I know you did like the tox trio, stool testing, the CGM. Like, which one do you feel like was the most impactful?
The stool for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The CGM, I loved that. I still have another 10 days on that, and we're going to do it over the holidays so I can see how all of
Ooh.
the sugar cookies and holiday foods that I eat affect my body. So stay tuned on that.
Ooh,
Um,
and you'll have to do too if you can. I know that you'd probably have to do it like separate times, but like I would love to like experiment too of like if you had like some turkey or something first and then you had a sugar cookie and like also testing
yes.
like if you have like just a sugar cookie. I'm just so I love seeing like combinations and how that impacts it. It's so cool.
Yeah, and I actually did that the first time, like the first couple 10 days where I did. If I had sugar and paired it with a protein or a fat, the glucose spike was significantly different than if I
Yeah.
just had a carb.
Yeah.
And even not even just like simple carbs, sugar, just carbs in general. So
Yeah.
like sweet potatoes or any like vegetables and things like that. If there was fiber included, a fat included, or protein included, that glucose spike was minimal compared to just doing the carb alone.
I love that. Surprisingly, there are some patients that actually that doesn't work for. So that's why we do it just to see like what works for you. But I
Mm-hmm.
love that you got that result because I just feel like that's such an easy way to like implement because sometimes it sucks when no matter what they eat like before like protein or fiber and they're like still spiking. I'm like, dang it. Oh my God, we're probably gonna have to like, avoid the food for a little bit as we like try to regulate blood sugar. So I love when people get that response. They're like, okay, now we just have to like work on changing it up in the combinations. That's easy, but like to
Mm-hmm.
say so like to someone, oh, we probably have to avoid that one just a little bit longer. I'm like, dang. I'd rather it be a combo issue.
Right, right.
So the stool test. So
Mm-hmm.
what were some things on the stool test that you felt like were the most insightful?
Um, the SIBO, so
Mm,
having SIBO, that was super insightful. And then the I don't remember all the names of them because they were crazy, but I my gut lining inflammatory markers
mm,
were really high. I don't remember exactly
yes.
what that was called. But those were like off the charts high. So
I
from
think your
there,
eosinophil protein was high too, but no parasites.
yes, yes, no
Or
parasites.
no
Yeah,
dropping of parasites, but
yes.
having a higher eosinophil can like pick up hidden parasites because parasites
Mm-hmm.
don't drop with every stool dropping. For side note for people out there, so I love that marker because it can give us some indication of like, okay, you may not have dropped one here, but it could potentially still be like an issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that one for me was the most insightful. And I had high something that's associated with like nuts, like I think it started with an F, something with,
Mm.
so I had to start with like sprouted nuts when I brought nuts back in because of
Mm.
something from the stool sample. Which actually ended up, I can't really do almonds at all. That brings up
Interesting.
issues. Yeah. Yeah. So
Wow. Have you been
I
able to bring back dairy?
I can bring back dairy. Yes. So,
Yay!
and actually, that's a good point that you even asked me that because I was talking about my diet beforehand, and then I did the protocol, and my diet now is pretty similar to what my diet was before I started the protocol. Um,
Interesting.
so it's not like, when you're doing this, you have to like be on this gut protocol for the rest of your life in order to feel
Right.
good. Like the whole point of it, and you all do such a good job explaining it, is to heal your insides, heal your gut, make it so your body can digest foods better. You don't have these inflammatory
Yeah.
issues happening because your gut is healed, and slowly bring things back in to how you want to eat moving forward.
Yeah.
So even now, like I said, I'm pretty close to eating the way I was before. Like
Yay.
obviously there are a few things that I have to avoid now, and I learned through the process. Um, and I definitely have moments where we go out to eat and I eat probably not the best choices that I could make and have fried food or
I think
French
that's
fries,
everyone.
and yeah, and I don't have issues unless I do it like multiple
Too
meals, multiple
much.
days in a row. Yes. And then it's
Yes.
like, okay, reel it back in a little bit here
Yeah.
because this is getting out of control.
Yes. I love that you mentioned that and that you're at that place because I think this is something I hear from people who have worked with other functional providers is that they kind of start off with like forever diet. They pretty much just say like avoid gluten, avoid dairy. That's it. Like that's pretty much the recommendations from functional medicine doctors if they're not like if they don't have like a dietitian or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, honestly, even with a dietitian, I've seen that pretty often. And that's where people are like, okay, I took all these foods, but that's it. And so I think that there's more of a therapeutic, which is like where our gut protocol comes in, a more therapeutic approach for the healing, like you mentioned, and then you get there. But I find that most of our patients can't get there yet. They can get there, but it takes a while. There needs to be more healing between. And I just feel
Mm-hmm.
like other practices are just like straight to kind of that forever, like, oh, just avoid gluten, dairy. And I feel like that's when people say, I've tried it all, or I've seen someone, they gave me recommendations, but I don't know. I just feel like it's just we approach it a little differently,
Mm-hmm.
which I love. So I love hearing that you're able to get to like your like forever diet. So yay.
Yes.
And PMS, tell me about that. Cause I know you had some PMS and I know a couple months ago, I remember Claire telling me like she didn't have any like PMS symptoms this time. So what did that look like for you with PMS?
Yes. A PMS for me before doing the protocol was wild. I don't know how else to say it. I definitely more less physical and more mental for me.
Mm,
Um, so it was the like intense anxiety and just like raging anger during PMS. And
very
then,
real.
yes, so real. And then as I was going through the protocol, that subsided to the point where like sometimes I would be like, oh, I just got my period and I wasn't a raging bitch for the last 5 days. What just happened?
Okay, did
And
husband even
yes,
recognize
he would
that?
attest to that. I think he would attest to that. Yes, yes. Um, so the physical changes for that for me weren't much, but I didn't really have issues with physical
Nice.
pieces of PMS before, but the mental piece and the mental change with that was huge. And like
Nice.
I don't know why, but it was just a change for the better for sure.
Wow, that's awesome. I love that. And I don't, yeah. Yeah, at this point we didn't look at like any sex hormones or do anything like
Mm-mm.
sex hormone focused. I like to highlight that because people do look at us a little funky when they do come in for PMS, like that is their main reason. And then we like start talking about like gut health or whatever. And it feels very like off base. I'm like, that's not what I'm coming in for. But like, as you can see, you had some PMS stuff and that improved with not even focusing on sex hormones, but with focusing on all the other aspects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I
Um,
wouldn't even say that was a main reason that I came to you guys in the first place.
no,
So that to me was even like a secondary win from my
yeah,
perspective.
yes. Oh my gosh, for sure. And with joint pain, so I know you mentioned almonds. Is there any other foods that like you feel like you've connected to any joint pain specifically?
Um, Soybean oil, I think, and
Mm,
anything with soy in it,
mm,
that definitely can cause issues. Like if I eat, like if I have switched from having soy sauce, now I just do coconut aminos, and that seems to help.
yeah.
Um, so I think that's it though. Almonds and
Nice.
like anything with soy in it.
Nice.
Even gluten. I was gluten free for a really long time because of my Hashimoto's, because that's what they tell you. Like if you have Hashimoto's, the best thing you can do is be gluten free.
Yes.
And I do feel better when I'm gluten free, but now I can have gluten and not have like severe issues, which
Yeah.
is great.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Um, and then I think we are doing Dutch now that I remember. You haven't
Yes.
done it yet, right? It's like
Not
our
yet.
next
Nope.
thing. Cool.
Yep.
I love that. What has there been any follow-up lab wins? I'm trying, 'cause
Um,
I know you
I
get some from your
just,
doctor.
yep, I just got done some from my doctor. I think it was like 2 weeks ago. And I went over those with Claire last week. And my antibodies were down a lot. They're supposed to be under 9. I've been in the hundreds range, not 100, but just hundreds in general. They got up as high as like over 800. And
That is
then,
so crazy.
yes, that was just like maybe 18 months ago, I think. Um, and they are in the low 100s right now. So
Mm.
definitely lower. They could still get lower, but
Oh, for sure.
um,
It definitely takes time. I've definitely seen people both that shoot down really quick and then get normalized. And then I see people that take a long period of time. It like decreases over time. So you can see the decline, but it's just like
mhm.
it's a slow process for some.
Yeah.
So
And truly, I didn't get my lab work done before I started with you either. So even my
yeah,
original labs were from like a year ago. So I don't even know
yeah,
what the antibody number is before I started with you in
yeah.
July. It could have
Nice.
been through the roof. Who knows?
Yeah, nice. Do you feel like you still struggle with anything? Because I know too, I love that you mentioned more so in the beginning with the gut protocol and stuff. And it was like refreshing not to have to like super hyper focus on any macros or anything because you kind of had that like history of like easily becoming obsessed with it. But any like struggles that you still are working through? And this could be like
Um,
diet, non-diet, could be anything.
um, Making sure I'm getting enough protein in
It's a
is
struggle.
pretty big. The struggle is real with that. I would say that's definitely still a struggle.
Did
And
you see
not in
that
a
reel
struggle.
I posted on Instagram?
I don't think so.
It
Recently?
was it was like a couple weeks ago. It was Jennifer Lawrence and when she was trying all the, like this hot sauce, but you know how like with reels they or whatever, they take a little snippet of like a video and
Hmm.
then they'll put it on the background. It was I don't know what the background was, but it basically had her like crying. Um just
Yes.
crying about something else. I think it was a hot sauce. But the meme or the reel said like how women feel with like trying to get enough protein in.
Yes.
Oh, I think she was
Yes.
just like, I feel like I'm gonna die.
Yes. The struggle is so real.
Yes, I'm with you. I'm with you. It definitely has taken me like to figure out even a flow for myself, and I still need to like do like at least a protein shake a day, or I still struggle with gaining like just through real food. And my portion sizes are pretty huge, so it's not that. It's just like my goals, but obviously my goals I'm like trying to build muscle and stuff too. So,
Yep.
but yes, okay. So enough protein. Anything else?
Um, well, currently, since it's November and the day before Thanksgiving, I usually struggle all the time between like Halloween and Christmas, just with the holidays and the Halloween candy that's still around my house and the holiday baking that's
Yeah,
happening and just like the stuff that's not just like in your normal diet that's there that now
yeah,
is like kind of just extra. Um, so I would say right now that is still my biggest struggle, but it's all about balance too. Like I'm not
yeah,
gonna not eating any of that stuff. So again, making sure that I'm getting all the water in, that I'm getting protein,
yeah,
and it's not, like my entire diet and
yeah.
modified version.
Yeah. Are you hosting at all for any of the holidays? Or are you going to someone's
No,
house?
no hosting for me this year. I am going to a friend's house tomorrow, and then
Nice.
we are traveling back to Wisconsin over Christmas. So we wouldn't be
Nice.
hosting then either.
Nice. Is how and how's your like family on board with like just like lifestyle and diet changes? Like, have you felt any resistance or from them or pretty on board?
No, they've been super on board. Like my immediate family, like my husband and kids, I think that they have noticed just a difference in like my demeanor and the things that I'm able to do with them that I haven't been able to do for a really long time. So,
Nice.
I mean, my kids notice that sometimes I eat things like a little different than what they did. And, I'm super big. I don't want to like tell my kids that I'm on a diet or like
Yeah.
anything like that. And it's always been about, like my joint pain and trying to like fix and, get rid of the pain that I have. And like when I
Mm,
stand up or when I mean, they notice when I get up off the floor that it's slow
yeah.
and controlled. So,
I
um,
love that seed you're planting though. You're absolutely planting the seed of like
yeah.
food is healing. It's not
Hmm.
like you're on a diet. It's like food is healing and I love that.
Yep. How it makes you
Mm.
feel.
Yeah, totally. Well, yay. I'm so excited that you were able to join us today. Is there anything else
Yes.
that we didn't cover that you wanted to share?
I don't think so. Not off the top of my head.
Well, I'm excited that you found us and are working with us, and excited to see your next level and next thing to focus on, because health is a roller coaster. And so there's always something to
Always
improve and get better
something.
at.
Yep.
So
Yep.
thank you for coming on today.
Yes. Thank you, Lahana, so much. And thank Claire too. She's my
I
little
will.
rock every 2 weeks that I get to talk to.